It's a pleasure being here. It's something that I've been doing for many years, procurement and supply chain. And while I've been in the background in supporting organizations, I think I have a key understanding of what is it that businesses would require to move themselves forward in a time such as this. Um, the coronavirus, COVID-19, has changed the playing field for many businesses, both small and large scale. And many entities have changed the way they have now decided to do business. But I think we want to focus on the small to medium enterprise, because the bigger boys have all sorts of strategies in house that can aid them in finding solutions, financial solutions, and ensuring that their supply chain is kept up to date to the point where they can maintain a market presence. Or how can the small business and the medium-sized businesses do exactly that? Now, I would want to start by, let me share my screen with you. My approach to this is procurement and leveraging your community and networking. And what I would want to ask persons is, how do you see yourself in today's market? The status quo has changed. You've been doing business for quite a while, but when you got into business, you came into business not to pay a few bills, but to meet a need or solve a problem. And now that things have changed, one needs to revisit their approach, dig deep into what is it that got you into business in the first place, and come out with new strategies and approaches that would allow you to maintain your market presence and not just survive, but to excel your business. The other question we want to look at is, how and what is the market offering you as a supplier, and what services can you bring to the market? You've been doing one sort of supply or service, and specifically, let's say you were, for example, you were a vendor at a school, but that is no longer being offered because schools are closed. How can you use the same service that you have, or how can you diversify? And I'll talk about this a bit more, about what is it that you're offering and meet the market demands. I would want to say, I heard Miles Monroe once said that he was asked to give a talk at a forum, and everyone expected him to put on his CV or his presentation that he was a pastor or a reverend or something, and all he put was consultant. He said that to say that he was not boxing himself into anything, to say that, okay, all I know to do is prepare food, or all I know to do is to preach. I'm saying that I can diversify, I can see what the market needs, and I can, to the best of my ability, provide that service. As I said, the market has changed, and who's spending? Early in the game, we saw that the private sector closed up shop to a large extent, sent some staff home, but the government was still spending. As a matter of fact, government in Guyana has and always been one of the biggest spenders. And I took some time off to go through the newspapers to see what ads were there. And even in the height of COVID-19, the government is still putting out bids. There was one from GWI, there's one from the Ministry of Agriculture, there was one from IDB, and there was one from the Ministry of Education. The point is, government and international organizations are spending. So one needs to take the time, look and see who's spending, who's asking, and see what services that you can still provide. I would want to also go on to what is your supply chain and what is your supply chain network. Interestingly enough, I got an email last evening from SBT Japan, and my immediate reaction was, why would SBT Japan be sending me emails? Who's buying a car now? But as I read the email, SBT Japan has diversified and is now selling mist blowers where it's a machine, a mist generator, sorry, that is, you put in, I figure it's alcohol or some cleaning solution, and it sprays on the person's body as they enter the building. So if SBT Japan can switch from cars to mist generators, we need to see what else the market is asking for, and we need to see what we can get into and continue within the market share. The question is, the next topic is, how can you leverage your current supply chain for new business? When last have you talked to your suppliers for whatever is it they were supplying? Maybe they're now offering something else just like SBT Japan, and you need to now follow up with them to see what they can now offer you that you can now bring to the market. It's interesting to see how people have changed to meet the demand of the market and reshape their approach and to ensure that they keep a viable business up and running. I spoke earlier about the government being the biggest spender in this current market. And one of the things that the government requirements is a valid business registration, compliances, NIS and GRA. I know GRA has put some restrictions on early in the COVID-19 period about how you access their services, but I don't think NIS has changed. Use the time, get your compliances in order, get your business registered, and see how you can respond to what the government is offering. You will hear much more of an online presence. I also have a business, and I was surprised to hear from the United Nations office of, I think it's UNGA. It's a supply arm of the United Nations, and they sent me an email to see what is it that I can supply. So it is important to have an online presence. It's important to register with some entities themselves to see what they're offering, providing they have a robust supply chain mechanism set up. We want to talk as well about what has been your ability to seek out the current market and interface with your clients. It'd be nice to follow up with some of the people that you have worked with in the past and see what is it that they may be looking for. It is important that you reshape your approach. Usually you would have gotten a call or you would have gotten an email, but in this time, in this current dispensation, you now have to change your approach and ensure that you remain relevant and ensure that business continues, steady, continuous business for your organization or entity. We would also want to use this time as well. I found a Porter's value chain within an enterprise analysis, and it's quite it look quite complex at this stage, but basically what it says, one needs to sit and look at all aspects of their supply chain and their processes and see if you're operating a business currently and you're not suffering from downtime, how is it that your inbound logistics and your costs is affecting your ability to produce the services or goods that you require? How is your operation running? How is your outbound logistics, your ability to deliver and deliver on time, your marketing and sales, your service, your quality of service, and what profit margin? So these are things that people can look at to ensure that they remain profitable in this time. as well as this is a more internalized approach, but a more outward approach and dealing with the market. One would want to look at, as I said, you might have been doing business. There might have been a few invoices out there that have not yet been paid. You can follow up with that to ensure that revenue continues to come into your business. As I have always been looking to see, as again, what the market is offering and who's spending and who's offering services. And I saw a advert last evening as well, where the Small Business Bureau is offering small business loans for small and medium-sized enterprises to ensure that staff continue to be paid, that businesses continue to remain relevant and meet their operational costs. So there are options out there. So moving from this supply chain option here, where you look a more internalized approach and look at your infrastructure, your human resource, your technology, your research and development, your online presence, and see what you can do. You can also make a more aggressive approach and seek immediate financing from institutions or entities that are willing to work with you in such a time. Networking and generating income, just to follow through from what I was currently touching on. You've been in business for some time. As I said, there must be a few online outstanding invoices or revenue that you can follow up on. You can increase your online presence, and this will be, I'm quite sure, will be expounded much more in the other presentations to follow. You can reach out to old clients and customers and possibly seek out new ones about getting new business. A more internalized approach. What is your plans for post-COVID-19? About how is it you will react to the market and reach the market and its demands? Your marketing strategy and the advantage of downtime. I talked about that earlier. Internalize, improve, and seek out funding from the Small Business Bureau. And last, think seriously about diversifying your suite of services. If SBT Japan can do it, you can. Don't box yourself in. Look out for new opportunities. Look out, this presentation also spoke to networking. You may have, Guyana is also into oil. You may have the local presence. Why not partner with somebody and meet with one of the requests for information or expression of interest, that the Center for Local Business Development has put out, and see where you can fit into that. You'll be surprised that you may find an external partner outside of Guyana who will be willing to come and work with you and provide funding and take your business to that next level, providing you, of course, you're an established entity. You have shown that you have internal organizational processes, you have an established bank account, that you have a business of what the accountants call of going concern, something that is reputable and decent for someone to work with. So this is my take on it, of ways and steps that one can look at generating business in the current market and remain relevant and continue to be a viable entity. Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot, Corbin. I think that was a mouthful in terms of the amount of opportunities that are still available today that we can tap in on. One of the things I'd like you to expand on a little more for us is in terms of, you spoke on the fact of if you're ready now to capitalize on the opportunities. Let's say a business who don't have their documentation up to date. They have been operational, but they don't have their documentation up to date. How exactly can they move forward in capitalizing on opportunities now, with the fact that a lot of the government services are working partial? So I may be registered, but my taxes aren't up to date, or my compliances are not intact, but there are some opportunities that I can explore on.
I have responded to bids from the government where my compliances weren't intact, for instance, NIS, and some government entities are willing to work with you, even if you can show them a receipt that you have even submitted or applied for the compliance. I think GRA also gives you, there's a slip that they give you that you can attach to your bidding documents to show that you have submitted the relevant documentation for consideration for a compliance to be issued. So I would say, well, if you don't, there are two options. You continue as much as possible to have your documentation brought up to date. And the step above that is that once you would have submitted your documentation to GRA or NIS, they give you a slip or a receipt. That can be a part of your documentation to respond to a government entity. Outside of that, I spoke to partnering with someone who may have their documentation up to date, and that can be a step in accessing opportunities that exist. In saying, well, okay, saying, okay, I don't have my documentation up to date, and then I'm just going to sit on my hands. Talk to somebody. This is all about networking. That person may have their documentation up to date, but they don't have the time to chase behind that particular request for services or goods. You do. So you work out an arrangement with them, you do the groundwork, and you come out, work out an arrangement where you guys can split the profits.
All right, thank you. Finally, you did raise a lot of information in terms of opportunities that are currently available. Can you share where we can go to find some of those opportunities?
Well, the daily newsprint is a very good opportunity. Is a good resource, to see especially where the government has within its modus operandi to advertise for its requests for services and goods within the daily newsprint, all of the daily newsprint. That would be a definite good resource. There are some entities, I did mention that in my presentation, that it would be good for you to register with the international organizations, so that or you check their websites, so they too themselves have procurement pages on their web page. So you click on it and you see what opportunities exist. As I said, I had registered with UNGA, and they would send you emails seeking what is it they're looking for. And the one that worked for years before we even got an online presence is your network and your ability to keep talking with people who are in the know or who are moving and shaking, and they can say, hey, this is what's happening, why don't you respond?